Hey there! Welcome to Spectrum Pulse, where we talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And I was hoping to have this sort of video reserved for the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, in my usual slate of updates. Unfortunately, some events outside of my control the past couple of weeks have forced my hand. It's time for a pivot. Maybe try something new. But first off, some background. Back in late 2018, 2 years after I'd started my Patreon, I hit burnout. I've talked about this before, but when you keep up the frankly ridiculous schedule I was keeping, over 300 albums reviewed that year, plus factor in changing jobs offline, plus a personal injury that had me in a sling for multiple weeks on camera, I was just doing way too much. And part of that, as I placed as a factor in my schedule and my desire to cover as much as my patrons would request, and unfortunately that did not have the rate of return I was expecting. I didn't get that additional traffic. It left me considering other options. So I decided to transfer my Patreon to a per month schedule, something that gave me more routine. I had proven my work ethic. Maybe it would give me a little bit more room to breathe. I closed my schedule altogether, and things got even worse. Not only did patrons leave en masse, but there was no mechanism for automatically moving patrons into appropriate tiers for the right rewards, and I saw an over 50% drop off in revenue. And for that, alongside other reasons I won't get into, 2019 was one of the worst years of my life. It was bad. It got to the point where I restored the schedule in 2020. I went back to a per video billing structure. Folks actually came back, and I had a better year amidst a world-altering pandemic in 2020. But things were relatively back to normal. I took the hit, I found a way to fine-tune my scheduling structure, it moved on, and thus fast forward to August of this year, where Patreon announces internally two things. First, that if you choose to sign up through the iOS app, Apple is forcing an additional percentage that creators, and by extension, new patrons, would have to pay if they went through that app. I was nonplussed by this. Patreon has been pushing folks to the app for some time in order to satiate a very misguided belief that's being pushed by their venture capital backers that they can be an everything app. But Patreon has also outright refused to provide any information surrounding how many users will sign up to creators through the app. They gave year-over-year traffic statistics as if that data is in any way relevant to this issue. I want to see signups. Where's that info? Or why they just don't make the app read-only, redirect users to the webpage like Spotify and other companies pissed off with Apple's monopolistic platforms do, or indeed, maybe whether or not they need to use the app at all. Built-in warning right from the top. If you want to sign up to my Patreon, do not use the app at all. It's clumsily optimized, it's glitchy as hell, and you're gonna pay less by going through a web browser regardless of device. But that's not all Patreon chose to do. They also said they were gonna remove the per creation billing because apparently Apple does not allow it. Yeah, what I attempted in 2019, that backfired horrifically. Patreon was now just gonna force all per creation creators because Apple said so, and the preservation of a mediocre app on the App Store where they won't provide sign-up statistics to justify the change, that's more important than creators that have established business models that predate Patreon. I'm not going to go into the fine details of every way Patreon has fucked this up, fucking over 18 plus creators who are already not visible in the app but work per creation. The fact that there is no consideration for per creation creators who operate outside of a regular monthly structure to fit into Apple's system, or who offer lower tier prices for new users because you have the ability to set how much you want to pay each month. And they have no clue how setting those prices impact retention. And the quite frankly god-awful communication to both users and patrons alike, where they have offloaded all the messaging onto us, the creators, and their grand tradition of trying to get someone else to solve their problems. It's cynical. It's categorically bullshit, and the fact they are going to individual creators directly to try to smooth this over whilst revealing their total inability to understand alternate business models, it smacks of attempted forced arbitration. I'm using those words deliberately. And suffice to say, I'm extremely displeased with Patreon. but I'm also by no means one of the biggest creators on the app. I'm also not remotely surprised. Patreon has attempted to kill per creation billing multiple times, first in 2018, then in 2021, because apparently having a unique and well-liked billing structure and service for creators is something that Patreon now wants to desperately get rid of in their in-shitification timeline, likely at the behest of the venture capital they keep on taking despite being profitable. And thus I'm currently going through the back end of Patreon to try to figure out what my options are, as I'm not about to close my schedule again, and I'll keep folks who are already signed there posted surrounding changes therein. Suffice to say, I was looking for other options in order to diversify my revenue streams. So enter YouTube and YouTube memberships. It's very amusing to me that Patreon rolled out a universally despised policy change, and they did not think that other platforms that have been looking to challenge their market share wouldn't try to take advantage, throw their weight around. So the exact same week as this Patreon news broke, I got an email from YouTube which offered us a distinctive incentive package to activate YouTube memberships. Not going to go into the fine details of it, mostly because I'm not sure whether YouTube has some fine print stipulations that could compromise that package if I do, but suffice to say, they're offering me a significant lump sum payment alongside a certain bonus for me for the first 100 people that sign up for YouTube memberships. I'm frankly stunned and floored that YouTube would ever do such a thing. I mean, when did this platform start becoming more creator friendly? It's disconcerting, but I am tempted to do so, except for one thing. I wanted to ensure that if I opened up YouTube memberships, it would be alongside something new, special, especially as memberships seem best configured for more of a live streaming format. And I'll be honest, I don't stream that often. I've kind of wanted to, but there's always been some hesitancy there. I've seen my friends and colleagues do reaction streams. I reckon I could probably do something similar, but I also know how those streams tend to emphasize the niche, and especially the negative, or they become endurance challenges, and that's honestly not what I really want to do. It wouldn't really fit my skill set. I want it to be a discovery, a learning process. Find music and art that goes outside the status quo, maybe even largely independent. Probably doesn't get the attention that it deserves amidst the deluge of streaming. So I looked at Bandcamp. I get recommendations every single day for new music across so many genres, and it can be a lot of work to try to listen through all of it on my own, try and find something new from their curated choices, so why don't we do it together? It's going to be a weekly live stream, the length conditional on how many songs I get because I want to focus on new music that comes up, not archivals or reissues, preferably with the lyrics available as well, we'll have to see. But it's going to be a learning process because I'm going to be working to try and figure out, well, live streaming properly. And considering what I'm used to, it's going to be an adventure in and of itself. New software, new technology, new licensing behind the scenes. And the expectation is going to go wrong more than a few times before I hit my rhythm. And if you want to participate in some of that community with the custom emotes, perhaps me answering a question or two in between songs, as of right now, YouTube memberships are going to be live. And if you sign up within the first 30 days, that would be greatly appreciated as that contributes to that incentive package. Now, patrons, this is not me abandoning you or my album review schedule as I fine-tune that. It's a new addition. Potentially those who prefer to do things through YouTube, you might be able to get access to the schedule through here as well. And if you want to hop on this structure instead, patrons, I'd be happy to work with you. We can talk. But for everyone else, starting September 19th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, welcome to Bandwidth.